Minced meat forms the basis of many, in fact, almost most value-added products. If you're going to use a hand mincer, like in my case, make sure that you've got a sturdy base on which you could fasten the mincer to so that it doesn't move around. Let's have a look at all the components. The auger or the worm is used to push the meat forward. And next up you'll see an example of what the knife looks like that spins with the auger or the worm. Here's an example of what the locking ring looks like that keeps it all together. And lastly, an example of the mincing plate that completes the front assembly. And the handle is used to drive the whole assembly. Here's a list of all the components. Let's take a look at how we assemble the mincer. First up, insert the auger. Time to get a better view so that you can see what it looks like when the auger turns inside the unit. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and the subsequent lockdown, I couldn't shoot this video in the training center and therefore needed to do it at home. Next up, we insert the knife and then we install the mincer plate. The mincer plate stays stationary while the auger and the knife spins or turns, thereby cutting the meat. The locking ring is what keeps it all together. It is important to note that if you disassemble the machine, you follow the reverse of the assembly process. Here you can see that you need a sturdy base when using a hand mincer. Turning the handle may result in the whole unit moving and shifting, and that's why you need to make sure that you fasten it to the base properly. When tightening the lock ring, make sure that you don't over tighten or under tighten. If you under tighten it, the mincer is not going to be effective. If you over tighten it, you cause unnecessary friction between the knife and the mincer plate. Here you can see it's not tight enough, so the whole mincer plate keeps moving around. Now you can see the lock ring is tight enough and the mincer plate is not moving. Let's have a look at assembling an electric mincer. This is my use at home mincer for any DIY projects and examples. And this is a size 22 made by a company called Spade. I made another video where I open up the mincer to replace the stripped gears. The mincer body is kept in place by tightening the screw. Make sure that it's tight to avoid the mincer body from moving around or shifting. Here's another example of the auger. When installing the auger, make sure that you turn and push to make sure that it engages into the gears properly. Next up we've got the knife, and the knife is what spins or turns against the grinding plate. When installing the Mincer plate, make sure that the tongue and groove fits in together properly to make sure that the Mincer plate can't spin or move around. Here you can see the Mincer plate locked in place, and complete the assembly with the locking ring, making sure that you don't under tighten or over tighten. Completing the assembly, here we have the meat tray that fits over and into the Mincer body. Whenever you use the Mincer, make sure to use the pusher instead of putting your fingers down the funnel where the meat goes. Here's a demonstration of what it looks like using the hand mincer. Here you can see how the mincer body moves around as I turn the handle. When you use a hand mincer, make sure to tighten it onto the base properly. When you realize there's a problem with your product, it's time to stop and inspect and make sure that there isn't something wrong. Your locking ring could be either too loose or too tight. Alternatively, your mincer knife and plate could be blunt. Now's the time to do troubleshooting. When you use a hand mincer, also make sure that the meat that you use to make the mince is cut small enough so that it makes life easier when you're trying to turn the handle. Let's move on to something a lot easier and use the electric mincer. is a lot less effort. Here you can see how you feed the mincer and how you use the pusher. Make sure to never put your fingers into the feeding hole. You will always have some pieces of meat stuck inside the mincer because there wasn't anything to help push it through between the knife and the grinding plate. When you're done with the bigger pieces, take some of the mince that you've already made, put it into the tray and let it go through the machine again. This way you'll make sure that you push all the bigger pieces of meat through the machine and you won't have any losses or anything stuck inside the machine. And this is how you safely use a mincing machine.